Hi, I'm Rachel, and this is my Am Reading video for President's Weekend 2024. President's Weekend is one of our U.S. Federal holidays, and it wasn't yesterday, but technically speaking, I guess what I'm talking about encompasses some of the reading I did over those days and other days since my last Am Reading video. I feel like lately I'm just racing against a clock sometimes with reading, and I'm not exactly where I hoped I would be, but life trundles on. And with that in mind, I'll go ahead and get started here, starting the usual way I do with these Am Reading videos by talking about a short story in a literary magazine that I'm reading. And this video I am reading from American Short Fiction, the Summer 2023 edition. And today I'm talking about a prize-winning story. This won the Halifax Ranch Fiction Prize, and it's called Fatherfish by Anita Lowe. So this is a story that breaks the sort of realist, fabulist wall a little bit. It goes back and forth. We start with a young girl visiting her grandmother. The girl, it seems like, is growing up in the U.S., and her grandmother is Cantonese in China. The first time she visits her grandma, she tells a lie about her parents and how they're doing, and her grandmother starts telling her these parables or stories where she's supposed to sort of put herself into the story, like which character she's the most like. And then meanwhile, the girl goes home afterwards, so she lives with her parents, and she's active on the swim team, and it comes up that her father is emotionally abusive. Sometimes he drinks, sometimes he isn't home. He demands a lot from his wife and later his daughter, and he's just really taciturn and can be difficult to get on with, or sometimes he, is okay and sometimes he isn't. And she goes back a few more times, growing up more and more, to visit her grandmother. I guess these are like the folklorist almost interludes. And the grandmother keeps telling her these stories, and as the young girl or growing girl interacts with her parents at home, she thinks a lot about these stories and the characters that her parents are being and who she wants to be, especially as she's kind of facing the problem of how to handle her father and his taciturn personality and his abuse, and what to do about that. And then even when it comes to the grandmother telling stories, things seem a little open-ended or uncertain, like that maybe it isn't such a simple issue of like fighting off a demon monster or something like that, like the relationship between the parents. She talks about it being a flower and a dung heap, and then the mother counteracts when the daughter tells her this, like what's fertilizer, how do plants grow? So there's that. And it does seem like the ultimate ending for the girl is realizing in a way she has to sort of be more than one character in the way that she handles the situation with her father. And it's a little bit, I guess, open-ended of an ending a little bit, and also it does seem like a little bit of melding, like maybe the grandmother magically appears in the U.S. at the end too, or maybe it's just the girl thinking about her. But yeah, it was an interesting story. I do feel like some of, I guess, the the girl so constantly, comparing the events to these characters from the story. Sometimes it seemed a little strained and convenient, but overall I think it worked really well as a way to have a character try to process these really difficult situations of trying to handle this abusive father and the mother trying to keep the peace and all of that, and where does she fit into all of this, and how does she, like, what type of life does she want? Like, one of her mother's major drives is actually getting her daughter out the door and into college and that sort of thing, and that's sort of, it seems like her way of enduring this and living through it, but then it's the daughter's turn to sort of take more agency herself. So it's a really interesting story. Continuing with short stories, I've read through most of The Witch Bottle and Other Stories by Suzanne Feldman. This was the book I chose for my page 112 tag pick this month, so I'll link that video down below. And I think I largely like these stories. I've been trying to careen through them because, you know, I feel like I'm in a bit of a race about you know, how much I have to or want to read before the end of the month. And anyway, I've read all but one of these now. I think maybe the first two are my favorites. They're both about artwork and the art community in Baltimore. And Untitled number 20, it's a shorter piece, but in a way it's about hypocrisy in the women's art movement in the 1970s and having to you know, the challenges in any issue, I guess, of having to compromise your vision if you're trying to get your work shown, and it's hard to get that foot in the door. And the second art story is called Self-Portraits, which begins with an artist whose more famous artist boyfriend leaves her for a younger girlfriend, and she hacks off her hair, and she's been doing all of these self-portraits of herself in oil, and this is when I guess they start to get attention, is after these, you know, hacked off hair self-portraits, and her ex-boyfriend actually helps her get a leg up to get some of her pieces shown, and that, you know, complicates the relationship as well. I also largely liked The Stages, which is a tragic story told from the point of view of a woman who has terminal cancer, and her doctor has given her like a diagnosis of about 6 months to live, and her family's kind of falling apart around her. Her husband is largely absent, seems like he might be seeing someone else, and her 16-year-old daughter has been palling around with like sort of delinquent type friends, and she decides the best thing she can do is to get married to one of them, and it does seem like that's also convenient for her because she's pregnant. So the story revolves around this cancer patient, I guess in a way trying to make the best of it, thinking, well, you know, I can't see the future I want to for my daughter where she goes to college. So she's trying to talk with this kind of you know, surly boyfriend and his single mother who, you know, is working class and, you know, is struggling herself, but is sort of a loving companion as well for the daughter, and trying to sort of make sure the daughter's in the best position she can be in. I do feel like some of the characters and situations do feel a little one-dimensional or stereotypical. I don't know, maybe it's just so extreme or dramatic, and there's, you know, so many extreme dramatic things happening in this story, but certainly, you know, to get into the mindset of a character who's at the end of life like that, it's, I don't know, there was a poignancy. And also I read The Lepedo Child, which is actually what I read from for my page 112 tag, and it was indeed a historical story about this young man, Morton, who comes to Missouri from Boston during the Depression, and first he goes to work with his cousins on their farm, but he feels mistreated there, so he ultimately leaves, and at first he was going to steal this mule and cart, and it turns out he wasn't as nice of a character, I guess, as I first pegged him as at the page 112 tag. Not quite as nice. I guess he learns, he grows. But he was about to steal the mule and cart. He'd committed petty thefts in Boston, but the colored doctor who owned this, you know, mule and cart came out of the house and caught him, and he starts a relationship with Morton. And it's interesting. It's a long story. There's a lot going on in it. And, you know, it's just interesting to have a contemporary short story writer try to tackle the past like this. But when it comes to the titular story, I had issues. I think it's my own biases to some degree, or because The Witch Bottle is in fact about a paranoid man who starts spinning conspiracy theories about his neighbor, whom he pegs as a witch, and then he, consults the internet and, puts urine and hair and stuff like that into a bottle and has to bury them upside down in the yard. But, his paranoia keeps growing, and his mom's a little paranoid, and ultimately his wife's a little paranoid. And even though the story, I feel like, isn't on their side about the paranoia and the conspiracy theories, when it comes to conspiracy theories, I'm just a little tender-hearted because so much of that ties into historic and modern anti-Semitism. Not that that directly had anything to do with this story, but I guess I have I don't know, a sore spot when it comes to conspiracy theories in fiction, and I guess maybe I need to see them tackled a little more as, really bad or something like that. And I don't know. In a way, we're inside this one character's head, so we can kind of see why he's paranoid, but, like, why is his wife suddenly paranoid? It seemed like she wasn't, and then she was, and I don't know. It just, what world are we living in? Oh, too many paranoid conspiracy theory people. I'm taking it out on this story. But anyway, that's where I am with this one right now. And the one novel I finished this week is Unknown Caller by Debra Spark. And this is published by LSU Press. I think she might have won an award through them to get this collection published. So I thought I should, link to them and share down below because, talking about books that aren't, top 5 publishers, and it's always kind of fun when a university press publishes fiction, which is more rare for them. Anyway, this is one of my top of the Goodreads TBR choices. I had it on my TBR for the longest time on Goodreads, and I found it through the Jewish Book Council website because it does have some Jewish content, but most of the book is about this relationship of sorts between these two characters called Liesel and Joel, although the narrative takes us backward in time. And we start with this big climactic moment where we're told that for years, Liesel, Joel's ex-wife, has been calling him in the middle of the night from an unknown location that's probably London and demanding money for their daughter Idzia, whom he has never met and she won't allow him to meet. And so he does give her a little money, but not a lot because he can't, have visiting rights. And mostly for, by this point, like 15 to 17 years or something, they only existed as random phone calls for money in the middle of the night. But the story opens with the last and most ominous phone call, I guess, where Liesel demands that he take Idzia for the summer and doesn't give any explanation for this change of heart or many details, except later an email from a weird address. She sends a picture and flight itinerary, and Joel goes to pick up his daughter from the airport, and she doesn't get off, and the calls cease. And for the next few years, this is in 2005, and until 2012, basically all communication stops, but Joel and his new wife Daniela are kind of obsessed anew about what the hell is going on. Like, for the longest time, it's like maybe they would have been happy if the calls just stopped because, it's just an inconvenience in the middle of the night. But now Idzia was sort of dangled and yanked away from them. And what happened? And in chapter 2, we get some of those answers, where we go to London. We see that Liesel has terminal cancer. This seems to be a theme. Also, Boston is where the city Joel lives closest to. So we have some Boston again. But Liesel and Idzia are in London. Liesel has terminal cancer, and that's why she decides she wants Joel to see Idzia, I guess, as having someone to help the daughter, although she also has this really good friend who's a nurse, and that's the email address she sent the info from. And so Idzia, she doesn't give Idzia a lot of explanation either, and Idzia's just left to believe that her father never cared to have a relationship with her. And so she's not thrilled to go, but it seems like she might go ultimately, but then she's caught on the tube during an actual, historical terrorist event on July 7th, 2005, when there were some terrorist bombings. And so the chapter ends basically with, her in the middle of that, and it's uncertain if she survived that. And then from that point on, we go backward in time, and we don't even just stick with Joel and Itzia, although we mostly do. We do have one chapter from this friend of Liesel's, and it gets a little into Liesel's personality and what she's been doing in London most recently. But then most of the other chapters are back and forth from Joel and Liesel's perspective to kind of give that context about who these people really are beyond this melodramatic sort of script they've built up for one another, or especially Liesel's built up. And we see some of, I guess, the reasons that Liesel makes the life choices she does. She can be very flighty and a little paranoid, I guess, about people in her life. We do learn more about her family and how that might have played into it. And in general, she's, a much more carefree personality than Joel is. So when we ultimately get to their meet cute, I guess, or it's not really a meet cute in the 80s, it's not even that, fluffy or anything. I feel like these people should have known immediately that their personalities would clash and they wouldn't, stay together long. But these, backward chapters explain what really happened beyond what Joel thinks he knows about Liesel, who's always kind of been running the show and abruptly left him and spent most of their married life crying, and we realize why. And, she'd been kind of lonely. Joel could be kind of controlling. She did have an affair, that sort of thing. So I feel like there's some merit in saying, yes, these characters are complicated, but beyond that, I feel like I'm just, my tastes are either changing or maybe they've always just been this way, but there's not anything more than that to this sort of part one backward storytelling, and I feel like I wish I had more of a theme about why should I care about these characters beyond the chin scratching of, oh, it turns out that life is complicated and people are complex. But I don't know, it's just like they don't learn anything or have an arc because they're going backwards, and so the whole point is basically, clue gathering for the reader, and I just don't like that. I don't really like that fourth wall being broken where it's about the reader realizing, aha, people are complicated. I like a story where the characters realize things we're going forward for them to realize it, although technically in part two it's a little bit shorter, and we get to 2013 when, thanks to Joel's son's internet sleuthing, he's able to track down Itzia, and they're able to start having a reunion, and that's sort of the type of storytelling that I'm more drawn to, where the characters have to do the work of realizing that life is complicated rather than me. So, I mean, I guess, anyway, so I guess that's sort of my major beef with this type of storytelling. I mean, I still liked a lot of it in general, but I have some, I guess, thematic storytelling issues with this. And the final book I'll hold up today is The Art Thief, A True Story of Love, Crime, and a Dangerous Obsession by Michael Finkel. This is nonfiction and a biography about a French art thief, one of the most successful art thieves in history, who operated in the 1990s, and for years on end he stole from dozens of European museums and things like that. And his purpose was not, for profit. It was basically to decorate his attic apartment in his mother's house. And he was very, very good at it, and I think accrued millions to maybe $1 billion of merchandise ultimately. So we're following this character around, and that is all I will say about this piece, because I am reading it for the BookTube Prize. So the BookTube Prize was started in 2019 by Robert Sheard. The point is for members of the literary book community to judge the best in literary fiction and nonfiction published in the US the year before. So we are currently in the first round of 2024 called the Octafinals, and I am reading from Nonfiction Group B. I have 6 books, including this one, on my ballot that I have to rank against each other and then, share at the end of March so that the prize can go on into the next round. But until then, I have to keep my lips sealed and my thoughts to myself. But I do have some preliminary thoughts I was able to give about these books before I started reading in a video down below, and I can also link to the BookTube prize down below. So that about covers it for me now. Speaking of short stories, I hope to be back on this channel next to do a short story spotlight video. I recently had a couple of my own short stories published in an anthology and a lit mag, and I thought I'd read through all of the other prose offerings in those 2 books and talk about those a little bit, which will be really fun, but at the same time it does seem like how am I going to get through all the reading I want to do? I have one more reading video I want to do as well, and hopefully I'll take a significant bite out of the rest of my February reading for that as well. In fact, this weekend I am going with my dad to New York City. We're going to go see the Harry Potter play, which I'm really excited about. It's been on my radar for years now, and the special effects of it are supposed to be amazing. But we're going to be on a train for several hours, I think, back and forth, and maybe he'll let me have the time to do some reading on the train. We shall see. But yeah, I hope you all have wonderful plans coming up ahead as well, and wonderful reading in the wings too. Thanks so much for watching, everyone, and I'll see you next time.